My name is Jan, and this is the Uppsala English Bookshop. 23 years ago, I started this bookshop with my friend Christer, and we're still working at it. I think that almost every good thing in life happens by coincidence. I had no plans to start a bookshop. I was writing, and I was working in the film industry, and I was a bartender, and I did all sorts of things before I sort of stumbled upon this. I started working at another bookshop, and my colleague Christer was working there, and we started talking about the possibility of opening a bookshop. And I had a lot of drive, and it took 9 months from the moment we met until we opened the bookshop. And that was November 1995, and that was the Uppsala English Bookshop, and that's where we are today. Although we have moved twice, and we have also opened a shop in Stockholm. So why open a bookshop? Well, we both loved books, and we loved telling people what to read. So you need to find the right context to do that, because if you just walk around the city telling people what to read, that might be a little bit strange. And also a bookshop is a perfect excuse to contact authors who you really like, without it seeming too weird. So that's what we did. We started the bookshop, and we weren't businessmen, and we weren't anything but book lovers, really. And the first shop was in a courtyard by the river, upstairs. There were no shop windows, and there was no way of actually seeing that we were there at all. So it's completely amazing that we had anyone show up, but people did. And we stayed in the first location for 6 years. And the idea was to have a bookshop with only the good stuff, only the fun stuff. It was based on the joy of reading, and the slogan from the start was, we have the books you want to read, not the ones you have to read. And that slowly started working, and people started coming to us. And after 6 years, we moved the shop to a bigger, more central location with shop windows. And then we stayed there for 9 years, and everything kept growing, and we kept making these new connections, and we kept inviting authors over, and we started doing events in the shop. And then in 2008, we decided to open a second shop in Stockholm, in the old town. And we worked so hard, and that actually started happening as well. And the idea has always been to have a shop that is part of the local community. It's always been very important to be a central part, a cultural hub in the local community, where people come and meet and talk about books. And it can be authors talking to readers, it can be staff or me talking to customers about what we like to read and what they should read, and what was good and what wasn't good. And it can also be customers meeting each other, because there's a lot of conversation that goes on in the shop that we have no control of, directly anyway. So these literary meetings, I think, are the basics of the shop. And we became a place where regulars come. So we have always had people who come every week or several times a week. And once someone comes into the shop, they come back, and they start coming back. And this community of our friends has grown over the years. And then in 2010, we moved the shop here. So this is the third location. We moved it over Midsummer's weekend, because that's the only time when we are closed for 3 days in a row. And we started telling our regular customers that we were moving the shop. And first we teased them. We said, we're not going to tell you where we're moving. And they were afraid we were going to move the shop to another city. But then they started coming in saying, can we come and help? And we said, you want to come help move the bookshop on Midsummer's weekend, which is a holy weekend in Sweden. There's nobody in town for Midsummers. Everybody goes out into the country and spends time with their families. But we said, sure, come along, if you want to. But we didn't expect anyone to show up. And we had more than 40 people show up. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they moved the entire shop for us. They painted walls, they packed boxes, they built shelves, it was just an amazing event with all these customers who came to help us. And on the Monday after the weekend, we opened the shop here, and we could never have done that without the regular customers. So it's quite a Frank Capra moment. It's quite a moment in the history of the bookshop, which tells us that we've managed to connect with our customers. So those are the origins, really, of how we started, and a little bit of what we are. So the philosophy behind the bookshop. You need one of the things you need to make the bookshop a place where people want to come and be surprised is a nicely curated stock. That is absolutely key, because and by that I mean how we choose the books what we have in our shop. I mean, this shop is about 150 square meters, and we have around 14,000 titles in stock today. All of them are handpicked. Every single title is handpicked. We buy things that no other bookshop in Europe buys. I mean, the big UK and US publishing houses, they come to me 2 or 3 times a year. And we sit down and we go through what they publish, and I order books that I think will be right for our stock and for our customers, and which will enhance the experience of coming to our bookshop. As we buy a broad range of books that make our bookshops a better place, a more bookish place. So that's one thing, the curation of the stock. The other thing is, of course, the ambience. We could never, I think, have this bookshop in a modern building. We intentionally are in a mid-19th century building, and the furniture is stuff I've bought at auction or shelves that customers have given to us, and furniture that we have built. So it's a mixture of things which makes the whole place feel more alive, I think. Environment, the physical environment is very, very important. It's one of the key things. Staff is absolutely vital. To have people in the shop who love books, and a lot of people come here to ask for work because they like the environment so much. They come to us and they say, can I work here? And we get 2 or 3 a day. And I always tell them that I'm so pleased that they ask to be in this environment more, because it means that they probably like it. And there are 3 things I tell them that people need to work, to be good at working in an environment like this. They have to love books. I mean, that's a given. You need to love books in that sort of nerdy way, without boundaries, just the love of books. And then you have to love people as well. And you have to be the sort of person who likes telling people what to read, to eat, to what films to see, to be sort of not be afraid to share what you yourself like. And also you need empathy, so you can find out what they should be reading. And also you need a very broad knowledge base. So regardless of what they ask you, if someone comes in and says, I need the best book in the world on how to make spears, then you need to have enough information to be able to find that book for them. Even though you don't have it in stock, you can find out which book it is and how to find it. So these are all key traits in someone who should be good at working in a bookshop like this. So with the stock and the ambience, the environment, and the staff, and also what you do in the shop space. And we do lots of events, and I think that's key. Try to connect with people in your community by inviting authors. We do reading groups, storytelling for kids, themed evenings, like we do lots of Sherlock Holmes evenings or Frankenstein evenings or Doctor Who evenings. Anything that's sort of vaguely connected to literature and culture will absolutely fit in the shop. So, and by doing all of that, then you build up this cultural hub that is a part of people's consciousness. They know it's here, and it's something more than a shop. It is a magical place. So that's how we fill our shop. And the best thing in the world, I think, is when, because I usually sit in my back office and I have the door open, and I can hear people coming in, and you hear them come in and they go, and that's the best sound in the world, because then they've stumbled on something that they haven't seen, didn't expect. Sometimes it's just the smell of the books, and sometimes it's a particular book that they've been looking for 10 years, and it's on the shelf. And sometimes it's just a conversation. It's talking to someone who knows who Peter Orlovsky is, and just being able to connect with someone who knows a little bit about what you know. So all of those things, I think, make the difference of what a good bookshop is. That's the philosophy. So when we started doing events and hosting events in the shop, it was really about being able to reach out to people that I was a big fan of without them thinking I was too weird. So what we've done over the years is we invite authors that we like, we get in touch, and we fly them over, and they get to stay with me and my family, because everyone lets people stay in hotels, but to actually invite someone into your home and feed them breakfast and food, and you connect really well with them. And then what's happened is authors have started talking about us in the UK and in the US. And sometimes they get in touch with me now and say, I've heard such good things. Can I come to do an event? And so just doing events in a good way feeds into being able to make more events happen in the shop. So events are, I think, key to what we do. But we don't always make a lot of money from the events. The rest of the what we do sort of pays for the events. But then, you can put it down to community building or marketing or just plain fun, which is why we do it. So why is reading so important? Why do I think that reading is so important? Well, partly it's just the best thing there is. Diving into a book that is a completely new world and disappearing in it and being curious and just being driven by the story, it's such a powerful experience of joy that, of course, I wish to share it with everyone, and I want everyone else to feel that. And a lot of people do. And that love of the driven narrative shapes, I think, what we do in the shop. But it's also, I was talking about empathy before, and it's also a very good way to build empathy in people. You get to read viewpoints that you wouldn't otherwise be party to, and to understand other mindsets and other ways of thinking. And that makes you more tolerant and more understanding as a person. Whenever I travel anywhere in the world, I always try to find a few novels written by locals. Because non-fiction will tell you about structures, but fiction will tell you about the inner structures of people and relationships and how a society works. So I always try to do that, and I recommend that to my customers as well. Because then if you bring that along, then you get an insight into the society where you visit. But even where we are, it's the same, because you get an understanding of people. And also, and there's been lots of studies on this, that being able to understand and to hold a long narrative in your head and to understand it makes it much easier to understand other things as well. For kids growing up, I think it's key, because being able to understand a longer narrative makes you smarter. It makes other subjects like math and physics and anything easier, because you can understand the instructions and you can understand the concept. So reading has a lot of power and builds a lot of bridges. So everyone should read more books from the English Bookshop. Whenever I meet new people who don't really know the book trade much, and I tell them what I do, I'm a bookseller, I run a bookshop, and they always put on this sad face and they go, oh, poor you. Because the story in media for the last 10, 15 years has been all about how bookshops are struggling. And first, it was the story of the chains pushing out the little guys. And then Amazon opened about, I think, 60 days before we opened our shop. And so internet book selling happened, and everyone said, oh, you can't sell any books anymore because everyone is buying online instead. It's cheaper and more efficient, and you're like, a dinosaur, you'll be gone. And then the digital revolution with the ebooks and digital audiobooks happened. And everyone was saying, oh, you have to get your customers to buy ebooks through you, and you have to sell reading pads to people, technology. And all of these things, I think, have been met by some in the wrong way, because you can't really compete with the internet on the same platform. What you need to do is instead enhance the things about your bookshop that they cannot do, the physical things about a bookshop. Instead of cleaning out and just selling bestsellers, push in more books into the bookshop. Every nook and cranny, fill it with books, and put in more chairs and be more personal with people, and play British radio in the shop like we do, and host more events, and bring in kids to do work practice in your shop, because that creates ties. And the biggest reactions, I think a lot of people have reacted with fear, but instead we need to react with pride, and we need to enhance that which makes us stand out, and enhance those things that the internet cannot do, that an algorithm cannot do, but we can. And so the more physical, just enhance all the physical properties of your shop as much as you can, and people will like that. And by all means, use social media as much as possible, but carry the spirit of the physical bookshop into the social media. Do everything in a personal voice, and people will notice that as well. So I think, and when the ebook happened, and everyone said, "Oh, now the physical book is dead," I think the first thing I noticed was that young people started buying fancier classics. People under 30 started looking at the book more as a physical object, and maybe the revolution of the digital book made them more aware of the book as a physical object. And then everyone kept saying that the physical book is dying, and you need to be the dinosaur again and say goodbye. And then I spoke to people in the US, and everything happens there first. And I think it took a few years, and then it stabilized. 20% was ebook sales, 80% stayed physical, and that figure has stayed over the years now. And that means 80% physical still needs to be sold. So I spent a lot of years at different functions and parties and dinners defending what I do, because people were expecting me to go belly up and saying, no, we're doing well. And from year to year, we kept growing. And now we started hearing the news from the States that there are now more indie bookshops than there were 10 years ago. And we never lost any sales. And then and last year we became Shop of the Year in Uppsala, which is, for a bookshop to become the Shop of the Year has not happened in Sweden for a long time. But they came here and they saw what we did, and the level of service and the quality of what we did. And word spread around the country and outside the country. And we've had a lot of people come. We've become a destination. People would come here to Uppsala specifically to come to the bookshop. And a lot of people started becoming aware of this. And then this spring, the London Book Fair and the British Publishers Association named us Bookstore of the Year in the world, outside the UK, for this year. So that's really paid back, just pushing and keep doing what we have always intended the bookshop to be, and just not give up and not react with fear to the challenges that we have met, but instead just keep pushing in the right direction and And now people are coming from all over the place, and we have a stamp, and we stamp the books for them. And just today, someone came into the shop for the first time because she had read about us, and she wanted her books stamped, and she wanted me to sign the books. I haven't written the books, but she wanted me to sign them because she had been listening to a radio program about us. And that's just fantastic. And that is such a kick, actually, to get that reaction from people and see that now people understand. And now when I go to parties, they already know. I don't have to defend my position. They don't feel sorry for me. They know that it's possible to do this in a good way and to have it work. So back in April, when I was at the London Book Fair, and they gave us this prize, and we were out half the night. And when I woke up in the morning quite early, around 4 or 5, and I woke up and I looked at the prize. It was standing there on my desk in the hotel room, and I looked at it and I thought, so where do I go from here? What are we going to do next? You know, they've named us the best bookshop in the world. What can we do now? And I gave it some thought. And of course, what we want to do and what we enjoy doing is to keep doing what we already are doing. And we just want more people to discover us and to come in and share this experience. And now we have this shop in Stockholm, in Södermalm, and it's beautiful. And Tom, who runs it, is excellent. And Josie, who works there as well, and Christer, my colleague, who works there. So we want that to grow and more people to come into that, because the Uppsala shop is still twice as big as the Stockholm shop, but there's much more room to grow. And it's all about these meetings that I spoke of early on, to have these meetings grow and to have more of these meetings take place. That is the dream for the shop, and to keep going and to just be able to do this is such a privilege, to work with something you love and to have these conversations every day. And every Monday, out in the back of the shop, 2 or 3 pallets of books arrive from the UK and the US. And I open these, and I do that still myself personally, because I love opening all the boxes. It's like Christmas every Monday, to see what's in them, and it's all stuff I've ordered, but I you forget, and sometimes I order books months ahead, and then they finally come, and I open the boxes, and it's like, wow, look at this, and you build this enthusiasm, and it's still there. So it is quite a privilege to work with this, to work with something you love, and to be able to talk to people about it, and then to have people like what you do. So that's my goal, to keep working with the bookshop and with books, and to find all these new worlds that are inside the books, and to be able to do that, and to run more events, and to just have the ship moving along towards more books on the horizon. Yeah, absolutely. And to meet more authors.